June 5, 1967, 7:45 a.m. In less than 3 hours, the entire balance of power in the Middle East would be shattered forever. What you're about to witness is the most devastating military operation in modern warfare. A strike so precise, so brutal, that it decided the outcome of an entire war before most soldiers even woke up. This is the story of the Six-Day War, but here's what they don't tell you. It was won in the first 180 minutes. May 1967, tension in the Middle East had reached a breaking point. Egypt's president, Gamal Abdel Nasser, was the undisputed leader of the Arab world. He amassed over 100,000 troops in the Sinai Peninsula, right on Israel's border. Tanks, artillery, and aircraft poured into the desert. This wasn't a drill. This was an invasion force. In Cairo, crowds celebrated in the streets. Victory seemed inevitable. The Arab nations would finally push Israel into the sea, or so they thought. Then Nasser made his most provocative move. He closed the Straits of Turin, blocking Israel's only southern shipping route. This was an act of war. Israel faced an impossible situation. Surrounded by hostile nations with overwhelming numbers, Egypt to the south, Syria to the north, Jordan to the east, Iraq sending reinforcements. In Israeli war rooms, the debate was desperate. Wait for international help that might never come, or strike first and risk everything. Young Israeli pilots prepared for a mission that seemed suicidal. They would fly low, under radar detection, across the Mediterranean Sea. Their target, every Egyptian airbase simultaneously. The plan required split-second timing. There was no room for error. Failure meant annihilation. At Egyptian airbases, radar operators sipped their morning coffee. Another routine day. They detected nothing unusual. Israeli jets screamed across the water at wave-top height, so low their wingmen could see their reflections. They were invisible to radar. 7:45 a.m. The first bombs fell. Egyptian MiG fighters, lined up perfectly in neat rows, exploded like dominoes. Runways cratered. Control towers collapsed. In 8 minutes, Egypt's largest airbase was obliterated. Egyptian pilots ran desperately toward their aircraft, but it was too late. The jets were already burning wreckage. Wave after wave of Israeli aircraft struck. Every 8 minutes, a new attack. Egypt's air force was being systematically destroyed on the ground. Egyptian commanders frantically tried to reach Cairo, but communication lines were cut. The phone lines that still worked brought only screams and explosions. When Nasser finally learned the truth, the color drained from his face. His entire air force, gone in less than 3 hours. The final tally was almost unbelievable. 300 Egyptian aircraft destroyed. Israel lost only 19. But the Israelis weren't done. Syrian air bases were next, then Jordanian. The same devastating tactics repeated with surgical precision. By noon, Israel controlled the skies over the entire Middle East. Arab air forces had been wiped out before lunch. Now the ground war could begin. Israeli tanks rolled into the Sinai Desert, meeting Egyptian forces dug into defensive positions. The battles were fierce and bloody, but without air cover, Egyptian tanks were sitting ducks. Israeli aircraft hunted them mercilessly from above. At the Mitla Pass, retreating Egyptian columns became trapped in a deadly bottleneck. The narrow passage became a graveyard of burning vehicles stretching for miles. Thousands of Egyptian soldiers abandoned their equipment and fled on foot across the scorching desert. The mighty army that had threatened invasion was now in full retreat. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, King Hussein of Jordan faced a terrible choice: stay neutral or honor his alliance with Egypt. Against Israeli warnings, Jordanian artillery began shelling West Jerusalem. Hussein had chosen war. It would be the most costly decision of his reign. Israeli paratroopers mobilized for the assault on the Old City. This was personal. The holiest sites of Judaism had been forbidden to Jews for 19 years. Fighting through Jerusalem's narrow streets was brutal. Every corner, every ancient alley became a battlefield. Jordanian forces fought desperately to hold the old city, but without air support and surrounded, their position was hopeless. On June 7th, Israeli soldiers burst through to the Western Wall. Hardened warriors broke down and wept, touching stones their ancestors had prayed toward for 2,000 years. Rabbi Shlomo Goren blew the shofar at the Western Wall as soldiers prayed and cried. Military victory and spiritual longing collided in one unforgettable moment. In the north, Syria's turn had come. From the Golan Heights, Syrian artillery had terrorized Israeli settlements for years. The fortifications were formidable, concrete bunkers built into volcanic rock, with perfect fields of fire down onto Israeli farms below. Israeli soldiers began the brutal climb up near vertical cliffs under fire. This would be the hardest fighting of the entire war. Bunker by bunker, Israeli forces clawed their way up the Golan. The casualties were heavy, but they kept advancing. When they finally captured the Syrian positions and looked back down, they understood why this had to be done. Israeli children had lived under these guns for decades. Syrian forces broke and retreated toward Damascus. Israel could have pushed to the capital but held back. The war was won. On the sixth day, June 10th, ceasefires took effect on all fronts. In 6 days, Israel had tripled its size. The Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, all under Israeli control. The map of the Middle East had been redrawn. But victory came with consequences that still echo today. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians became refugees. A humanitarian crisis was born. Arab leaders met in Khartoum and issued their famous 3 no's. No peace with Israel, no recognition, no negotiations. In Israel, victory parades celebrated the most stunning military triumph in modern history. The tiny nation had defeated 5 Arab armies in less than a week. Nasser offered his resignation in a dramatic speech, but Egyptian crowds refused to accept it. The beloved leader had led them to catastrophe. The Soviet Union immediately began rearming Egypt and Syria, replacing the destroyed equipment. The Cold War superpowers were now deeply invested. Israel studied the captured Soviet weapons carefully, an intelligence treasure trove that would be shared with the United States. Palestinian resistance movements emerged from the defeat, transforming the conflict from conventional war to insurgency and terrorism. Israeli settlements began appearing in the occupied territories, planting seeds for conflicts that continue today. 6 years later, Egypt and Syria would launch a surprise attack on Yom Kippur, seeking revenge. The cycle of war continued. But eventually, peace broke through. In 1978, Egypt's Sadat and Israel's Begin shook hands at Camp David, making peace possible. Today, the Western Wall sees millions of visitors from around the world, the most visible legacy of the Six-Day War. But the conflict born in 1967 remains unresolved. Israeli and Palestinian children still grow up on opposite sides of barriers. Gaza remains blockaded and contested, 58 years after Israeli forces first captured it in 1967. The Golan Heights, captured from Syria, remains occupied territory where Israeli and Syrian forces still face each other.